Welcome everyone to Agile Talks by Agile Gurus. I'm your host Rahul Kataria, and today we have Daniel Dina from London. Hey Daniel,
Hi
podcast again,
everyone, good to be back again.
and thank you so much. Um, so Daniel, last week we talked about Safe 5.0, a few things that people had questions about, and for people who just joined today and people who are new to Agile Talks with Agile Gurus. This is a weekly podcast, and we are doing a three-part series about SAFe 5.0. And last week we talked about a lot of different questions, roles, responsibility, etc. But we didn't get into too much detail. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the deltas between 4.6 and 5.0, and we're also going to jump into roles and responsibilities and how they tie in SAFe 5.0. But before we get started, welcome Daniel again. I know it's late in London. Thank you for making time for us, man. So Daniel, let's start with the recap. Can you give like maybe a small 1 minute recap from last episode so people who are joining new, they can be on the spot.
Welcome everybody to our weekly podcast with Agile Gurus. Thank you, Rahul. Last week we went through, laying the foundations of what it means to actually go through digital business transformation, understanding the why, understanding the how you need to do it, and understanding the what matters. This week, what we'll be focusing on will be the deltas in the various versions of SAFe. Now, for those of you who are new to Agile Gurus and what we do, Agile Gurus actually is a SAFe Silver partner, and one of the key things that we do is we train, educate, and coach people on the Scaled Agile framework for enterprises, and which basically is the acronym SAFe. Now, SAFe is in its 8th or 9th iteration right now, or version as we call it, in normal layman terms. And one of the key things we've done is that there's been a pivot from the version 4.5 to 4.6 and now to 5.0. One of our focuses in this series was to look at exactly what the differences are in the deltas, but fundamentally understand also the new competencies, the configurations, and also the dimensions that map to those competencies as we go about implementing SAFe in your digital business transformation.
Thank you, Daniel, for that recap. So how about let's just start and get into the deltas. I know last episode, a lot of people had the same question about, can you explain the delta between 4.6 and 5.0? So I'm going to hand it over to you. I know you wanted to share something for that.
Yeah, so before I share my screen, basically, one of the key things we noticed is the core differences in the versions 4.5, 4.6, and 5.0 is with 4.5, we really didn't have competencies. 4.6 introduced 5 competencies, and 5.0 basically has 7 core competencies with a bit of rejigging, retweaking, and remapping of what those competencies are in the overall Scaled Agile framework. We consolidated a few things, and then overall also we looked at what the new nuances are for implementing Agile at scale within your organization or within your business enterprise. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen right now, so you just have an idea of what it is, and ignore the first screen. So in SAFe 5.0, one of the key things that we looked about is basically understanding the 4 different configurations of SAFe. As you can see here, we have, the portfolio SAFe, large solution SAFe, program SAFe, and the team SAFe. But there are no competencies. This is the original big picture of SAFe 4.5. And you could also see that the understanding of strategic teams, a few things around, what the portfolio looks like, how the configuration maps at the large solution level, but overall understanding what needs to happen in, the program level. Here we can see DevOps as part of the culture, and then we can see team and built-in quality. And then fundamentally, we can see basically that we were focusing here on, agile teams, where you have the Scrum Master, Product Owner, and the Dev teams working together. One of the key changes in 5.0 is that this is no longer the Dev team, it's now called the Agile team. And that's because it brings an alignment with understanding that, anything that has to do with digital business transformation is not just a dev effort, but it's also a collaboration between business and technology to align on what the goals, the outcomes, and the vision is for your transformation. 4.6 fundamental change. We could see basically 5 competencies were introduced. If I revert back to the previous one, you cannot see any competencies here. And if I go back here, we can see that 5 competencies were introduced. One of the core focuses was around lean portfolio management. How do you fund value streams? Then business solution and lean systems. What does that look from a capability point of view? And how do the epics map to capabilities and the enablers? Your enablers, remember, are what build your architectural runway, and your epics are basically what are your long-term and tactical or strategic initiatives as an organization. And then fundamentally also, we now started the movement of DevOps. What is the DevOps culture? So that's all about, culture, automation, lean flow, measurement, and recovery. How do you fail forward, fail fast, and then also how do you recover quickly? But fundamentally, there was a focus around the continuous integration pipeline, the CI/CD pipeline. So that's where your automation comes in. And we can still see that we still have 4 layers here at the portfolio level, the large solution level, the program level, and the team level. And this is basically 4.6. Now, what they introduced was team and technical agility, lean agile leadership, which is the foundation of any successful transformation, lean portfolio management, which is basically understanding how you fund initiatives, so moving from projects to products, and pivoting to understanding exactly that you fund value streams and identify basically the gaps and the wastes between your value streams in terms of operational and development. And as we go further, we can see that 5.0 is a major shift. So 4.6 was a delta or release version of the same 4.0 version of SAFe. And in 5.0, it's a major shift because we've now introduced various competencies and configurations. And I always start with select the SAFe configuration that actually is tailored or suited to your organization or enterprise. And by this, what I mean is basically we have, on the top hand side, at my right hand corner, full SAFe, portfolio SAFe, large solution SAFe, essential SAFe. Those configurations are still seen now, but you now have them broken down into 3, where they've consolidated program SAFe into just basically being called essential SAFe. But now we have, a fundamental shift also. We call this the spanning palette, On the left-hand side, basically, we now have, a couple of 6 competencies and the 7th, which is lean agile leadership. So we see there's an introduction of organizational agility, lean portfolio management still sticks. We now have a definition called enterprise solution delivery. We now have a new introduction of agile product delivery. We still have team and technical agility, which was part of 4.6. And we now have a new competency, which is called continuous learning culture. And each of these competencies, have also got, layers within them, which is what we call dimensions. One of the other key things that you'll notice in 5.0 is a focus around customer centricity and design thinking. So understanding what we're doing in terms of, market research, user research, looking at, design ethics, looking at, understanding the flow of value, from an idea to cash, from concept to cash. And that's basically what we're looking at. But overall, a lot of the core things still stay the same, and this basically has been, the differences. We also can see here that, vision kind of aligns across all of, the competencies, whether it's, full SAFe, portfolio SAFe, or light solution SAFe. What businesses need to understand is you could be in your organization and be dealing with portfolio SAFe and essential SAFe. Those are the 2 core things most organizations start with. When you now are dealing with large solution SAFe, say for instance, your government agency or your car manufacturer, such as, Volvo, Nissan, or BMW, you're likely going to have multiple agencies working together to supply you the different aspects and components. And then you got your APIs, your integrations, and you want to leverage all of them being aligned on the same cadence and synchronization. So that's why you have a pre-PI and a post-PI planning. Fundamentally, also, you still are looking at, what it is we're looking to deliver every 10 to 12 weeks, so that's what we call the PI planning. And those PI planning is basically where we now look at a big room planning and everyone comes to align. Here we now see a focus around agile teams. The product owner, the scrum master are still core. But then overall, we now have business development, operations, and support, because when you go live, you still need the teams to support. So your QA, your testing, you're going to be doing your disaster recovery and all your support and onboarding. And then DevOps is still core, and it's now core to essential solution context and built-in quality. but you're extending the architectural runway. And those are where your enablers map to either enablers at a capability level and the epic level, and they also map to the user stories, and so fundamentally, this is basically where you begin to see, the fundamental shift. You still have a focus on lean user experience. You still have a focus on metrics, community of practices, shared services, what the roadmap would look like. And by your roadmap, you are looking at the team roadmap, which is at the essential level, the program roadmap, also at the essential level, the large solution or capability roadmap, and then the portfolio roadmap. And on the top layer, we now have what we define as business agility. So this is basically adaptable and configurable for both enterprises and government. We have here also a few new metrics that have been introduced called measure and grow, which wasn't existing in 4.5 or 4.6. And so when businesses are looking to change and pivot to, say 5.0, you've got to understand exactly how you can retrofit, and then upgrade your version of SAFe to 5.0.
Interesting. So what you're saying is this at the bottom left, the business dev ops and support, this was not included in 4.6. Is this something new, or this was all?
Yeah. So if you look at business in 4.6, we're going to go back. We used to just have DevOps, right? And we used to just have kind of like a focus around the system team and lean UX, but we never really had the business working in alignment. We had business owners at the program level, and then we had also epic owners and architects, and people looking at the portfolio canvas. We had solution management and all of that. So right now, the core focus is now, what does digital business transformation look like in your organization? It's no longer just a thing about, delivering from an IT perspective. We've got to understand, how do we onboard? What is HR doing? How do we hire the right skill, the right, resources, but also how do we fund these things, to actually be innovative, high producing, high performing streams, where people do the work and are appreciated for the work, but also you're delighting the customer at the same time while continually delivering value and built-in quality. So that's why there's a focus here on built-in quality that sits across, whether you're looking at compliance, you're looking at security, you're looking at, your bugs, you're looking at, your architecture, you're looking at your support, you're looking at your customer onboarding, and also the feedback and, releasing new solutions and products in the market. And this fundamentally is where there's a pivotal shift when we now go into 5.0. So there's a core focus around agile teams working all together collaboratively. The business owners are still there, but we now have, a focus fundamentally to now say, at the essential level, what does good look like? What is that definition of done? A definition of done would now be a core alignment and understanding whereby we are avoiding and limiting the handoffs between business, development, operations, and support, but working together to see how we can do a lot of those collaborative work efforts and then the delivery of value to the customer.
Right. And I think one of the biggest move that they made from 4.6 to 5.0 is to involve like the business line in the team itself, right? To like the business centric design.
Exactly. So customer centricity and design thinking. Previous organizations used to just allow field sales marketing teams go out into the field, and then you have a humongous backlog with a lot of technical debt. And business and customer service, we're not really talking to IT and technology. And IT and technology, we're just always going ahead to say, okay, well, we're looking to do this, but there was a lack of coordination, a lack of collaboration, and a lack of alignment. And oftentimes what gets done is who shouts the loudest, so you want to avoid that. Now you want to basically now start moving people into, agile business, agility and customer-centric solutions where you're moving away from projects. Because if you ask yourself, when you fund a project, who is the customer? But when you're actually funding the products and you're looking at building value streams around products and solutions, you can understand exactly what the journey of that customer is. And that's why we use things like empathy maps, story maps, and we use other tools, such as understanding the lean portfolio canvas, a few other things that are there as toolkits to allow us understand exactly who is the customer, what segment are we serving, should we pivot, should we persevere, or should we in the end ditch it?
Yeah. No, thank you for that, Daniel. And so talking about the deltas, let's get into I know one of the biggest question people had in one of the last podcasts was roles and responsibility. How do they map to it? So, do you have something to share for that, or?
Oh yes, so I kind of did a very high level. Let's just go into the competences first of all.
Sure.
At each level, we have competences, and I've just extracted this straight from SAFe. At the lean portfolio management, you want to basically focus on this because they've got three dimensions. They align strategy, funding, and execution. They optimize the operation across the overall enterprise portfolio. And also they look at, lightweight governance, which empowers the decentralization, of decision making at the team level, so whether it's at the team or the program level, essential level. But then there's a joint collaboration between strategy and investment funding, understanding agile portfolio operations, and then lean governance, who are we funding, what are we funding, and why are we funding it? Then you look at organizational agility. So what does that mean? That means basically how can we create an enterprise lean agile mindset, not just for the dev teams, but also for the business, HR involved, finance involved, operations involved, customer service involved. What does that lean agile mindset mean? How do we actually move into a lean business operation, where we're avoiding a lot of the manual process and automating as many things as we can while still continually delivering value? Because remember, if there's anything you measure in the success of your transformation, measure the cost of delay. Because the cost of delay also would always, impact your organization being able to release products on time. And you've also got to be understanding and sensing the market trends. So time criticality, we always use this example in a lot of Agile Talks. You could be a Nokia or you could be an Apple. So you basically want to actually be, Apple, who is doing a lot of things quicker, and what does that continuous learning culture? So you can see each of the competences here have got three dimensions, which we'll delve more into detail at the very end. And we're going to focus, and the overall focus is on customer centricity. We've always said that, in Essential SAFe, we start with lean agile leadership. So what does that mean? Inspire others by modeling the desired behavior. We have to align everyone on having the agile mindsets, with words, actions, and the lean agile principles and values. So we're talking about Scrum, Kanban, and the Agile Manifesto, and the SAFe principles and SAFe core values. And then we basically actively lead the change and guide others by the new way of working. Now, our new way of working post-COVID is going to be the new normal. You can hear people talking about it. But then we also think about team and technical agility, high-performing teams, cross-functional and agile teams. How do they align to build, in terms of new solutions, business and technical teams building business solutions? And what does quality mean across the enterprise? No longer just the dev teams, but also, the agile teams all coming together, teams of agile teams, and built-in quality. And then agile product delivery. Who is involved? We're focusing on the customer, but we're looking at the customer as the center of your product strategy. We understand that we're going to be developing on cadence and releasing on demand. And this simply means that we can develop, deploy into production, but we would only release it on the demand. And I always use this example. In the UK, for instance, Uber Pool stopped working after COVID. The reason why? Because of social distancing. It doesn't mean that the future isn't in production. It just means that they have the ability to release on demand when it's needed. And those are kind of classic examples. So one of the other things that we look at also is continuous learning culture. What does that mean for an organization? And these are the core aspects. To answer your question, the roles and responsibilities you look for, will be all aligned across organizational agility, lean portfolio management, enterprise solution delivery, agile product delivery, team and technical agility, continuous learning culture, and the lean agile leadership. The core roles you tend to see in businesses would be having the system team in place, shared services, especially when you're looking at environments, infrastructure, and understanding exactly how to harness and build test data. You need someone who is going to be, or a team who are going to be able to manufacture test data, set it up, tear it down. You also need people who will be looking at the quality metrics, we're looking at compliance and governance. Then you're also looking at, what is that, enterprise architecture looking at from an enterprise level, but from a large solution level, when you're looking at different people in the organization. So in manufacturing, for instance, you may have someone dealing with the bill of assembly, another person dealing with logistic, another person dealing with supply, and then another person dealing with, hardware, and then someone looking at cloud solutions. 4 different suppliers. How do you align all of those together? those are going to be aligned together with the enterprise architecture and the overall vision of that transformation. But then you will be having business owners, and sometimes those may be subject matter experts, technical sponsors, business sponsors. So if we're building a HR system, our business owners would likely be, the technical sponsors in, the HR function. But then working with the system architects, and here you would see one thing: everyone is involved in DevOps.
When you say
So
everyone means like the teams, or from
the
top to
teams,
bottom everyone?
yeah. So we look at here DevOps being, an understanding of the culture, automation, understanding how we measure, how we recover, and understanding exactly how we lead and learn, But here you're looking at, if you think of an agile team, I may have UX BAs, I may have, data modelers, data architects, infrastructure architects, and all of this kind of people in here, everyone is working, but also my requirements are coming from HR. My requirements are coming from business, customer service. My requirements are likely going to be also coming from other guys within the business operations, for instance, or
Right.
warehouse management team. So that culture of what it means in terms of development and operation, that's why it's called DevOps. It's a joint ownership and commitment by everyone who are business development, operations, and support to ensure continuous delivery of software solutions. So you're going to keep exploring, keep integrating, keep deploying, and looking to release on demand when it's needed by your customer.
Makes sense. Yeah. So, guys, we have one more question after this. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to put in the chat, and as we go through our questions, we'll come to your question too. So, Daniel, talking
Yeah.
about this, I think this is a really good, like, high level of all the different, I
Yeah.
guess, roles, responsibilities. So talking about that, like, can we get into maybe talk about a little about essential save? So if someone is starting with essential save, what roles and responsibilities are like keys to start with? Like, what should we look into for now?
So yeah, if we look at this picture, lovely question, Rahul. If we look at this picture, we can see that this is based on the full safe, right? The whole big picture. But at the essential level, this is what we're looking at. Essential level kind of looks at, technically the competences here, which will be lean agile leadership, continuous learning culture, team and technical agility, agile product delivery, lean portfolio management, and organizational agility, because that's kind of like, we're going to be looking at portfolio and essential. Where you see this thin line, that is what you're looking at the essential level. But remember, an epic is linked to an agile release train. And so we've always seen that the value in measuring growth and the performance and the maturity of your agile release train is tied to you having a lean portfolio management office and a function. And the key people involved are your epic owners, who could be your business analysts, subject matter experts, technical subject experts, and stuff like that, and your enterprise architects, who understand what the enterprise or the government body wants to do in terms of strategic team, long-term initiatives, and a portfolio vision. At the essential level, you'd be focusing on having core business owners, people who are responsible and accountable and have a shared investment and value in the delivery of those epics and the vision and delighting the customer. So they all have a shared interest in customer centricity. Why do our customers prefer us? Why do we basically have customers sticking with us rather than moving to another competitor? Then you now have the system architects and the engineers. Product management is very different from product owner. You have the agile teams, and the agile teams can be a composition of people in business, in finance, in regulation, in security, in infrastructure. You could have your scrum master. You would also have, the RTE, who plays a pivotal role in ensuring that the agile release train is aligned, but also coaches and guides the overall agile release train. The Scrum Master focuses at the team level to ensure that they coach the team and they remove the impediments and improve the backlog. The product owner owns the team backlog, which is where you now see the stories at the team backlog, because those are what happens in each iteration. The product managers own the features. The enterprise architects own the epics, along with the epic owners and the business owners. They all collaborate at that level. And so when you start in essential state, you want to actually have people represented from each of these arms of the business. People who are looking at your shared services, what does your DevOps look like? Shared infrastructure. Who are the kind of people that we need to think about in terms of building community of practice? Because you want to also build the lean agile center of excellence. What system teams are in place to support us in terms of automation, environments, VMs, system services, setting up the tools, whether you're using Jira, Splunk, Kafka, whatever it is you're using. Lean UX, what is the ratio of lean UX developers to actual core developers? Because remember, we're looking at design thinking and customer centricity. People are have a much more personalized feeling and emotional feeling with apps and products that actually resonate with the stories they want it to sound and tell in their own lives. So what solutions are we building? How are we building? What is that customer experience versus the user experience, and how are we working together to ensure quality? Because remember, we've got to have things such as data quality, data security, data authentication, data anonymization, all those kind of things that come with complex integrations and enterprises. GDPR is a classic example. How do we ensure that the solutions we are building are not infringing on the customer's data rights and protection? How do we protect that? Who is going to be ensuring the sign-off? When we go through an audit, that means we need people who would audit us. So at this level, you're looking at people involved in agile product delivery, people all coming together to agree on team and technical agility. What does that look like? People also continually learning what products they're building, what customers are saying, why customers need it, and why they should buy from us, and why we are different and how we solve problems. And then fundamentally, lean agile leadership, which is core. We, as SAFE program consultants, SPCs, tend to actually be the people who implement, guide, coach, and train every other person here in the organization so that they have an understanding of not just the theory, but the practical application and experience, of how to implement SAFE.
Got you. Thank you, Daniel. That was very elaborate. All right, let me see if we have any other questions for this particular topic. And guys, if this is getting too confusing for you, if you're new to SAFE, we completely understand. So, if you are new to SAFE, I would suggest find like a coach, agile coach, or a mentor within your organization, and discuss more of these if you are into one of the leadership roles anyway. So I think, Daniel, those were the only questions today. Do you have any closing remarks before I kind of talk about what we're going to do in the next episode?
No, so I was just going to say, well, closing remarks is, I've always stated, understand the configurations, understand the competencies, and fundamentally understand also the dimensions within each competency. I always refer to this as the big picture, because this kind of now is your blueprints, and your roadmap and your Bible. And then you're also looking at a few other things, such as where are we in terms of our transformation. You can actually measure and assess maturity at each level, and then what are the key competencies that we're looking at. And other than that, keep safe, stay safe, do safe, and actually excel in your business agility.
Love it. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate your time, man. And guys, if you have any last minute question, feel free to post it here or reach out to one of us. And our email is at rk@myagilegurus.com. But in our next, so this is a 3-part series. This was a second episode today. Third episode, which will be the final episode on this discussion, would be we're going to be talking about large SAFE solution. And we're also going to talk about organizational agility, but one of the other key things which a lot of people right now are concerned about is the measure and grow. It's a very important topic, guys. If you have more questions, or if you have any concerns about that topic, measure and grow, feel free to send your questions in advance so we can prepare and talk about it and have your time slot there. So thank you everyone again for attending Agile Talks today. Thank you, Daniel, again.
Thank you very much
for making time for us. And we'll see you guys next week. If you guys have any other questions or you want to suggest a topic, rk@myagilegurus.com. All right.
Lovely. Yep. All right. Cheers then. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Bye then. Yep.